in of itself means the guy paid his dues, just based on that story that you just gave us.
Absolutely.
Guys, and speaking of stories to me, when I think of a story, I like to always piggyback off certain words and transition to something else. I'll do that right now and follow suit with something that's really important to me and Del. I know all of you as well that watch Unmasking the Truth. When I think of stories, I think of stories that are unbiased. When I think of integrity, I used to think that journalistic integrity were two words I can bring together like peanut butter and jelly, Del. I thought they actually belonged to one another. Unfortunately, they don't. There have been a lot of fallacies as it pertains to the mass media here in this country. There have been a lot of topics that we've heard about these last 4 years that are anything but true. And we would always give you guys unconditional truth because guess what? It's in the title of our name, Unmasking the Truth. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to unmask some truth. The mass media, as it pertains to this last 4 years, our commander-in-chief, there have been a lot of stories that have been falsified. There have been a lot of stories that have been exaggerated. And what we want to do, inauguration's around the corner, but it's not there yet. What we want to do is bring up some of those stories and shed some light as to some of those fallacies. Del, I have a topic, but I know you do as well, so the floor is yours.
Well, you're exactly right, Avi. It started from day one, and it continued. It continues today. There was one that was released today that turned out to be 100% lie, false, fabrication. And you could park this bus right here at Russia and leave it there for the next 5 weeks and still not be able to probably scratch the surface on the number of lies that related to President Trump and to Russia. And starting out with the dirty dossier, the fact that the president went to Moscow and hired prostitutes at the hotel he was at to urinate on the bed, the same room, the same bed that Barack Obama had stayed in, that the president had hired prostitutes to urinate on that bed.
Wow.
Because of his total disdain for Barack Obama. That was the genesis of the Russian dossier, and it just went from there.
And Del,
that was proven to be false.
It was proven to be false, and I want everyone to understand, this happened really quickly in terms of just everyone committing to a narrative that wasn't even examined, Del. It wasn't examined. It had to do with BuzzFeed's release, as you mentioned, of the dirty dossier. And it impacted a lot of reporters, whether they realized it or not. It bothers me because you brought this up, and it's so funny that we didn't speak about specifics over the phone as it pertains to which issues. I knew we were going to talk about Russia, but I'm glad you brought this up. They believe that the underlying story that Trump had been cultivated also as an asset or just as a useful idiot for the Russians. I mean, to actually sell us on this without any kind of proof, once we go down that proverbial rabbit hole, it becomes a little bit bothersome because we used to at least have outlets in the mass media that would point us in the right direction, Del. That wasn't the case with this story.
No, it was not. And it just continued to grow. It just continued to get bigger and bigger. And Avi, every time one of these lies was exposed for being a lie, they never walked it back. Mark, how you doing, buddy? They never said we apologize. Never. They just went on to the next one and went on to the next one. It just continued. Lie after lie about his association with Russia. Now we understand now why that was so necessary, because while you're looking at Russia, the real story was China.
China.
So we've got to divert your attention from China, and we've got to divert your attention away from what we're doing. So let's look at Russia, and how Donald Trump is nothing but a puppet of Vladimir Putin. A total lie.
Totally agree with you guys and with you, Del. And the reporting, it became, like you said, increasingly maniacal, alarmist almost. I mean, to me, it also is troublesome because once we start venturing further, you realize that cable news was just as shameful as some of the media outlets that you might read online, or dare I say it, a hard copy, something you can actually pick up and hold like a newspaper. If you clicked on your cable networks and stations and start flipping one by one to the channels, let's say you wind up on Rachel Maddow's show, Del. Rachel went all in, devoting an extraordinary amount of time to this story, constantly holding up, talk about propaganda, constantly holding up all these glossy photos of shady Russians night after night with wild graphics and dramatic monologues. It was all about pushing, in my opinion, this web of connections and this concept of connecting the dots, Del. It was a thing that infected the entire audience of Blue State America.
It did. And you talk about Rachel, CNN did the same thing.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, literally for a couple of years, that was all they talked about. And every day, according to them, it was a different breaking story about Russia. So much so, Avi, that we know what it led to. It led to a special counselor with Robert Mueller, of all people, in a dirty FBI. We had FBI agents that were lying. We had FBI agents that gladly lied. You look at what Stroke and Lisa Page did, and it led to this Mueller investigation that we spent close to $50 million on.
$50 million.
And at the end of it, Mueller says, we've got nothing. We've got absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. You know what? James Comey told him.
Yeah.
We've got nothing. We've got absolutely nothing here. And what was it, that January 5th meeting with Biden and with Barack Obama, and said, well, put your best people on it. We're going to find something. He said, we've got nothing. Our FBI agents have come back and said, Michael Flynn's did nothing wrong. There's nothing here. Well, keep looking, keep digging, keep investigating. Put your best people on it because there's something there. And sure enough, it led to just the constant barragement of these lies night after night after night after night. They had proof. Adam Schiff had proof. The guy that just got caught with the Chinese girls, Eric Swalwell, he had proof. They had it in their desk drawer, him and Schiff did. We've got proof that this did go on, that he's a puppet of Russia. He's an agent for Russia. And it came to a big goose egg. Nothing.
And one of the worst stories I recall was of the New York Times. This was February, was it March? It might have been February of 2017. Might have been February, if I'm not mistaken. And it said that Trump had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence, Del. And it sourced 4 current and former American officials. But what they don't do is characterize what the context was, if they were witting or unwitting, what were these contacts exactly. It was as vague as you can imagine. So that irked me then and it irks me now. It really does.
Well, and I wrote this one down too, and it pertains to a guy that I don't have any respect for now, but he worked for Trump for a very short time. Anthony Scaramucci.
Oh, yeah.
CNN broke a story. They had 3 reporters that had the facts, the evidence, that Scaramucci was involved with a Russian hedge fund that was under Senate investigation. And they ran with that story for several days until it was finally exposed that it was a lie. It was a flat-out fabricated, made-up lie. And at least at this time, they did something, and they fired the 3 reporters that broke the story. They used them as scapegoats. But, yeah, a total lie.
Guys, we will continue talking. I have something I want to bring up now as well, because Del is absolutely 100% right. And to have the foresight and the bravery and the courage to talk about this is not something that we see as courageous, as a matter of fact. I hear a lot of people saying that they applaud for the truth to come out. I think, to me, it's as simple as washing your hands after a meal. We'll continue to do that because that's what you deserve wholeheartedly. There's another topic I'd like to bring up, and in the coming weeks, we will bring up different fallacies that were set forth by the media. I want to bring up an accomplishment. That a lot of people don't want to navigate through. This is a fallacy by the media. It's a fallacy they still want to bring up. But how about this? 3 years into his presidency, Donald Trump, signature legislative achievement remains a Republican tax bill that made sweeping changes to the tax code. This is a law, guys, that was the biggest overhaul to the nation's tax code in 30 years. And we heard the term rocket fuel, and that's exactly what it was. And it permanently slashed the corporate tax rate from 21%, Del, to 35%, while also providing temporary benefits for individuals and relief families across this nation.
Absolutely. And through those corporate tax cuts, if you remember, these corporations awarded their employees with bonuses, $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, amounts of money that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, referred to as crumbs.
Crumbs, yeah.
She called it crumbs, but yet but yet gave herself that Horowitz pat on the back
Sure.
over $600 that are going to change lives, $600 that you can do great things with, but yet literally mocked and made fun of the fact that corporations in these tax savings were giving it to their employees in the form of $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 that she mockingly referred to as crumbs. Sweeping, rewriting the tax laws that benefited the citizens of this country in such a great manner.
Rewriting the tax laws is right. There are guys, and it's to me, when you're having fun, ever since I was a kid, you just can't believe how time goes by. We're at 9 o'clock. We're going to do another segment right now called This Date in History, but I want to let you know, we will continue talking about certain topics that even you can ask us about as it pertains to this country, the Trump administration, moving forward, anything you want to bring up as it pertains to current events, I want to bring up. Because, Del, when it comes to you speaking about such topics, not only do you not shortchange the masses, but there's a certain passion that you have. And before we transition over to this date in history, I want to ask you a question I've actually never asked you in 6 months here. Why? Why is this so important to you? I know why it is for me. Why is it so important for you to unmask the truth every Sunday?
I love this country. I'm in love with it. It's the greatest country that's ever existed. And in spite of all our flaws, it's still the greatest country on the planet. But that's under threat now, Avi. We see there is an all-out war to defeat capitalism, to rewrite our history, to brand this country as a horrible country that's responsible for all of the ills known to mankind. When this country has done more for other countries, think of what we've done to liberate other countries, the American lives of soldiers that have died on foreign soil, to liberate those countries and give those people freedom. There's been nothing like America, and it's near and dear to me, and it's heartbreaking, it's infuriating, it's maddening, it's aggravating to see it come under assault by the left-wing media. And there was one other, and I know we have got, other episodes.
No, let's talk about this now, yeah.
But the one outside of the Russia deal that irritates me even maybe more is this notion that this man was a racist and a white nationalist. And it all stemmed from the incident in Charlottesville. When people and the president made the comment, there were good people on both sides. And for the listeners that may not be, or viewers that may not be quite familiar with this, there was a day in Charlottesville when people came together on opposing sides. There were people there that wanted Confederate monuments, any mention of the Confederacy, the Confederate War, of the Civil War, they wanted those monuments removed. Now, in that group of people that wanted those removed were Antifa and Black Lives Matter, thug fringe. But there were also people there that wanted those monuments removed that did not associate with Black Lives Matter, that did not associate with Antifa. They were good people that felt like it was time for those monuments to go away. On the right, there were people there that wanted those monuments to stay up and be protected. They were represented, many of them, by skinheads, by KKK, by racist clowns, by idiots, by the fringe right. But there were also good people there that wanted those monuments to stay up, that didn't associate with the KKK, that didn't associate with skinheads, that found them to be appalling, horrible, horrible groups. And the president simply stated that there were good people on both sides that day. And he was right. There were good people on both sides. There were extremely bad people on both sides, but there were good people on both sides. People that were there to state their case and to do it in a nonviolent, non-threatening, non-in-your-face, non-vulgar way of doing it. And the president recognized those people. And he spent the next 4 years, 3.5 years of his administration fighting off charges that he was a white nationalist, that he was a KKK, that he was a racist. And that was a lie straight from the depths of hell.
But literally and figuratively speaking, after that statement, that was all she wrote. And a lot of times we also tell ourselves that we want politicians who don't have people that are just making sure that they're anything more than talking heads. We want our commanders in chief to be a bit more commanding. And once Trump took that approach when it came to his speeches, he couldn't win either way. A lot of times people want our politicians to relate to us, Now, the problem with that is we spoke about the media. We spoke about the fallacies they said. You can't have your cake and eat it too. I wish we could, but we can't. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to go back to the system